Welcome back to another episode of Is Fitz Happy? I'm Luke.
And I'm Emma.
This week we're discussing Chapter 25, Ransom.
Yeah. And the epigraph to this chapter is written by Dun Needleson, who was skillmaster to King Wielder. Wielder is a wild name for a king, if I'm being honest. I'm judging.
Why?
I don't know. It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't feel very kingly. It feels very wartime, which maybe that means it's an older king. I don't know who Wielder is. If anybody knows, sound off in the comments. But yeah. Anyway, there is an excerpt, and it is about how to tell if a child is predispositioned or it most likely has skill.
Has the potential for it, yeah.
Yes. And that is a child who comes from skilled parents, a child who wins often at games of physical skill, and his opponents stumble, lose heart, or play poorly against him, a child who possesses memories not rightfully his, a child who dreams, and his dreams are detailed and contain knowledge beyond the child's own experience.
And that last one there is what Dutiful experienced, right? That's
yes.
kind of the first hint there.
Also, I thought it was really interesting to look at this and think about Fitz and how if he showed the predilection for skill. I don't know. I mean, obviously the skilled parents, but I don't think he really had dreams that
we
were
know
somebody
of,
else's that we know of. Yeah, that he talks about. And if he doesn't talk about it to others, and they don't think he has them either. Right. And then also, I mean, he was good at training in different things.
He never used his skill against other people, though, in doing those things.
So I don't know. It's just really interesting because it makes me wonder, like, how often these are signs at all.
Or I mean, they're pretty obvious signs, I feel like.
Yeah.
So if your kid does these things, you're like, oh, he definitely has the skill, but there's probably other things that are more subtle.
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Dutiful and Fitz have gone through the skill pillar again, and now they end up back in Buck.
Right. They are back where they started at the hill in the graveyard, I guess.
The Barrows.
The Barrows, yeah. This would be the third time they've skilled today, right? Back to back, because they touch the skill stone, go to a random town, touch it again, go back to the beach, and then touch it this time to get to the actual location they're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Fitz mentions that Dutiful is not doing well. It doesn't seem.
Yeah, so they're both exhausted. Fitz even has to just fall to the ground. And there's obviously that kind of sense of heat radiating from the pillar, but it's also that sense of wrongness that Fitz feels with the skill memory stone. And so he doesn't want to get closer to that, even though they are soaked because they were in the ocean before that. And now they're in Buck, and it's not like a tropical beach area anymore.
No. Yeah, they're soaking wet.
Yep.
I also just want to point out that it specifically says that after a moment, I became aware of an odd smell and realized that the pillar behind us was radiating warmth. So I wanted to specifically point out that odd smell bit because whenever Fitz first went through the pillar, he mentioned that there was a strange familiar scent he couldn't quite place. And I know this isn't like the most important detail, but I'm wondering if that scent is this odd smell that's coming out of a used skill stone, and it's sort of him remembering that from the first time he used it however many years ago, and then now it's stronger.
I don't know, because however many times he used it ago, it wasn't raining, he didn't get wet or anything like that, and he immediately follows it up in this page with the smell was the dampness forced out of the stone. So it's like that immediate expulsion of ocean water being evaporated into the air.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know if it would be similar or not.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that smell has been used a few times now, specifically in regards to the skill pillar, which again, not the most important detail, but it's something I found interesting and curious. So thought I'd bring it up, point it out.
So the figurine from the other island beach is still dangling from Dutiful's hands, and Fitz grabs it, plucks it out of his hands, and puts it into his pouch, and then tries to wake Prince Dutiful, or at least make him aware of something, because Prince Dutiful is just kind of staring off into space, and he slowly blinks. So Fitz is like, okay, maybe he's not fully gone. That's good. And
Yeah.
then Fitz is just like, okay, you rest. I'll figure out what to do.
Yeah, which, this is a pretty interesting situation to be trapped in, because there is the real fear that Dutiful could become unresponsive,
Yeah,
totally
vegetative, lost his mind kind of
just
thing.
not there anymore. However, I'm wondering if this is more something to do with his relationship with the cat and something going on in his mind with Peladine that is
Maybe.
causing it a little bit, because we'll get to it later more so, but he talks about how she's always with him. And I
Right.
know last time we talked about why isn't he reaching out? Like, was there a period of time after the skill pillar where the skill is cut or wit is cut off? And it doesn't seem like that's the case this time, even though this time there is this sort of wild staring numbness coming from Dutiful. So I'm just wondering if Fitz is projecting the fear of it being him losing his mind, and actually it's him sharing his mind with Peladine.
Maybe, but I'm more inclined to think it's the skill pillar because of the back-to-back-to-back usage
Right.
and how out of it Fitz is when he uses it the first few times too.
Sure.
So I'm more apt to think that, because he does slowly come to himself, and it's after Fitz starts talking to him and mentions, things about his life and names that he knows,
Right.
maybe centering him in Prince Dutiful's life more. So I don't know. But Fitz walks off, letting Dutiful kind of sit on the ground and rest, because he's trying to get his bearings of, okay, what's the next step? Because they are back in the Barrow areas with the standing pillar there, but then they're still trapped in the middle of the wilderness and they don't have any transportation to go.
Right.
He looks out and he says there is nothing that looked like an immediate threat, but nothing that looked like food, drink, or shelter either. I was fairly certain that Dutiful would benefit from all three, and feared that without them, he would sink further into unresponsiveness. But what I needed was even more basic. Fitz just wants to know if his friends are alive and
Right.
doing well. He wants to kind of reach out and howl at Nighteyes through the wit, but he knows that he can't do anything like that because it's incredibly dangerous and would alert everyone in the area that a witted one was nearby.
Yes. Yeah, it's not something that he can act on, so he has to just sort of put it out of his mind. But it is really hard for Fitz in this moment to know that he is so close, and yet he cannot know any more than that he is somewhat close. I feel like there must be a difference between the animal side of the wit bond and the human side, because it seems to me like Nighteyes doesn't have to use the wit in a way that notifies Fitz in order to find Fitz, whereas Fitz seems to need that contact, the two-way contact, to be able to go towards Nighteyes, because
Maybe. It could just be Fitz's wants to be open all the time to Nighteyes or
that's
something.
true.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I think the only times we see him go towards Nighteyes is when we have him sort of touching consciousness and making note of I'm trying to touch softly so I can know where he is. I
Right.
think I could be wrong. I could be misremembering, but Nighteyes always seems to find Fitz. And so in this moment, I'm thinking of that because he wants to reach out to Nighteyes so bad and know if they're alive. So that must mean that he's not touching it at all, which seems like that means he doesn't even know where to start or where to head.
So he's trying to force his thoughts into order. He needs, obviously, shelter and everything like that, but they also told him, the Piebalds told him, that if the prince was not returned, Then by sunset, they would kill his friends. So Fitz needs to find a shelter to stash Dutiful in, and hopefully some food as well to keep him, nourished, and then leave that shelter, save his friends, and then come back before Dutiful dies. He needs to do all of that tonight, and it's not looking good in his mind. So he's like, okay, what can I do? We can't really go back to Buckkeep. That's way too far. And I don't think he'd be welcome back at that inn, the Piebald Prince, because he was the reason that all the villagers chased after the Piebalds to begin with. So, don't really know. Let's just walk, get warm, and then I'll come up with something on the way.
Right. And you can tell that Fitz is also sort of out of it after going through the pillar because he isn't fully thinking things through, if that makes sense. Like, he is trying to.
To me, I think he's deliberately thinking through things, like the next step and like all of them. It's not like flashes of intuition and kind of jumping quickly. It's like deliberate plotting. I need to get through all of these thoughts before I can move to the next thing.
Yeah. But I also think that you can see it not just in that deliberate choosing of what to think next, but also the fact that he's thinking, oh, I'll just leave the prince somewhere safe and then go after the Piebalds, despite the fact that the prince is connected to the cat. And if he leaves the prince alone this close, the cat will get to him. So I just think there's a lot of little things that Fitz would normally think of that he's not thinking of. And at first I was wondering if maybe it's because he thinks potentially the prince isn't really human anymore. Not human, that's not the right word, but not all there anymore. And that's why he's like, well, it doesn't matter where I leave him. But also, that's not really how the wit bond works as far as we know. It doesn't matter what state the person is in. They could still be connected to their wit partner, as explained by that story. If you think back to when there was the person who bonded with multiple sparrows, or birds. I'm not really sure that they were sparrows, but they bonded with a lot of birds, and they're not really fully human anymore. They're not really all there because they have spread their consciousness too far over too many things, but they're so bonded. So like Fitz knows that it's too dangerous to leave the prince alone and actually go find his friends, but he can't think that in this moment, I guess. And it feels like it's because of a reaction to the skill pillar.
Fitz gives one final look around on his outlook here and sees some movement, crouches down and waits. And then he sees a horse walk out of the woods a ways away, and it is my Black. She stared toward me. Slowly, I stood again. She was too far off to go chasing after her. She must have fled when the Piebalds captured Nighteyes and the Fool. I wondered what had become of Malta. I watched her for a moment longer, but she only stood and stared back at me. I turned my back on her and descended to the prince. He was no more coherent, so Fitz is like, okay, well, we just need to get up and get moving. So he's like, come on, can you walk? Let's get up and get you walking. It'll warm both of us. I don't know if my words made sense to him. He stared ahead blankly as I pulled him to his feet. Once up, he hunched over his crossed arms. The shivering did not abate. Let's walk, I suggested, but he did not move until I put an arm around him and told him, walk with me, now. Then he did, but it was a stumbling, staggering gait. At a snail's pace, we traversed the wet hillside. And as they're going, very gradually, he becomes aware that my Black is following them. But when he stops and turns around, my Black stops and gets a little spooked because then Fitz is no longer supporting Dutiful, and Dutiful starts to collapse towards the ground again.
Right.
So Fitz is ignoring my Black as they're just slowly walking here until she had nearly caught up with them. And then he kind of sits down or like waits and rests and stays there, doesn't turn around until she gets curious enough to come up. Still doesn't turn around, just grabs her reins. And then Fitz says she almost felt kind of glad to be caught again.
Right. Yeah, I definitely think that in this situation, at least, she knows that Fitz will probably take care of her, I assume,
Yeah.
because Fitz is really good to his horses. So I'm sure, even though she seems a free spirit, I think she would be glad to not be still connected to her brittle and forced to walk around not knowing where she is.
Right. And so she's not in great shape at the moment. Mud was crusted onto one side of the saddle where she had tried to roll. She had been grazing around her bit. All her tack was damp. And as Fitz leads her around, she is lamed as well. So there's some sort of injury to one of her legs, causing her to limp. So she had run away and been injured, but her fleetness had saved her from the Piebalds. Yet there would be no wild gallop to safety for any of us. The best we would do was a halting walk. I spent some little time trying to cajole the prince into standing and mounting the horse. It was only when I lost my patience and ordered him to get to his feet and get on the damned horse that he obeyed me. Dutiful did not respond to conversation, but he obeyed simple orders from me. Then I appreciated how deep that jolt of skill command had gone and how firmly linked we remained. Don't fight me, I had charged him, and some part of him interpreted that as don't disobey me. Even with his cooperation, the mount was an awkward maneuver.
Skill is so much of an enigma to me because I find something so intriguing about the fact that it matters just as much how the person interprets the skill command as it does what you say. Because it seems like...
I mean, it's also kind of the intent behind Fitz's command. Don't fight me, but also like, listen to what I'm doing. I'm trying to help you. We're doing our best. Like I bet that was the feeling that Fitz had, that frustration kind of boiling over of the whole situation.
Right.
It's not just about don't fight me, because Fitz is also not super disciplined in the skill.
Right. That's true. So, yeah, I guess.
So there's a little bit, I guess, intent from there. But I think you're right, too, of that interpretation, that something of how it like affects your brain and how you would, maybe interpret what they're saying to you deep down also affects your body.
Right. I don't know. Just, there's so many questions I have. And this is just one of those things that raises it where it's like, man, so is it like what matters more? Because if I tell you something, but you regard it a different way, does that mean that you're going to do it your way no matter what? And I can't force you? Is it sort of like hypnosis and that like you can only be hypnotized if you want to be hypnotized?
Right.
I don't know. It's just interesting. But yeah, we have this sort of frustration. I feel like this is the start of Fitz sort of coming back to himself fully. And so in that, like, he's starting to get frustrated with with Dutiful instead of just being so like, oh, it's gonna be okay. I'll be calm and patient. And I think that anger is like a good sign of he's recovering as well. But yeah, it is definitely concerning in this moment. I guess less so because we're rereaders, so we know he's gonna be fine. But it is concerning in the moment that Dutiful is not speaking at all. Dutiful is not very reactive at all. And really the only sort of reactions come from direct orders from Fitz, which could fully just be the skill.
And Dutiful looks terrible too. Fitz remarks that he looks like a sickly kid that could die. And that kind of fully hits him too. It's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The last Farseer heir could die here.
I do want to say that Fitz's mercy towards Dutiful, maybe mercy isn't the right word, pity towards Dutiful has definitely grown. I think since with all the time they've spent together, but I think this chapter it really comes to a peak of him fully feeling bad for all the things that have happened to Dutiful and letting himself feel bad for Dutiful and see Dutiful as a person and a family member, not just the prince that he has a duty to save, if you know what I mean. Because I think that changes how Fitz is interacting and how he's going about the decisions he's making. Because before this was just some kid that he doesn't know, that he doesn't claim, that
Yeah.
he has some obligation to, but now it feels more like this is a family member who I need to try and help and protect. I don't know. I feel like that comes through to me in the read of this chapter.
So he's really reflecting on what the end of Dutiful could mean and how that means a painful and messy end for Nettle as well. We entered a strip of open woods, startling a crow who rose, cawing like a prophet of doom. It seemed an ill omen. And it is.
It is, because that is, spoiler alert, a wit partner.
Yes.
That is going to
scout.
go, yes, tell the rest of the group.
I found myself talking to both Prince and Horse as we walked. I spoke in Burrick's soothing cadence, using his reassuring words and a calming ritual remembered from my childhood. Come along now. We're all going to be fine. There. The worst part is over. That's right. From that, I progressed to humming, and again it was some tune that Burrick had often hummed when he worked on injured horses or laboring mares. I think the familiar song calmed and settled me more than it did the horse or the prince. After a time, I found myself talking aloud, as much to myself as to them. Well, it looks as if Chade was right. You're going to skill whether you're taught to or not, and I'm afraid the same holds true for the wit. It's in your blood, lad, and unlike some, I don't think it can be beaten out of you. I don't think it should be. But it shouldn't be indulged the way you've indulged it either. It's not that different from the skill, really. A man has to set limits on his magic and on himself. Setting limits is part of being a man. So if we come out of this alive and intact, I'll teach you. I guess I'll teach myself as well. It's probably time for me to look into all those old skill scrolls and find out what's really in them. It scares me, though. In the last 2 years, the skill has come back on me like some sort of spreading ulcer. I don't know where it's taking me, and I fear what I don't know. That's the wolf in me, I guess. And Ida's breath, let him be safe right now, and my fool. Don't let them be in pain or dying simply because they knew me. If anything happens to either of them, it's strange, isn't it? You don't know how big a part of you someone is until they're threatened. And then you think that you can't possibly go on if something happens to them. But the most frightening part is that, actually, you will go on. You'll have to go on, with them or without them. There's just no telling what you'll become. What will I be if Nighteyes is gone? Look at Small Ferret all those years ago. He went on and on, even though the only thing left in his little mind was to kill, what about my cat? So he's interrupted before he can continue on and probably name Regal.
Right.
But Fitz is just trying to talk and have a soothing voice, right? He's just, at the beginning, he's just trying to calm down both My Black and Dutiful and himself with these kind of reassuring and familiar routines that he remembers from Burrick, his kind of father figure who raised him, and speaks on things that are very close to his heart that he has been scared to say out loud. And this is what I was kind of saying before, kind of, mentioning Chade, mentioning the skill and the wit, and like, hey, I'll teach you these things, kind of bringing Dutiful back in a little bit.
That's fair. Yeah. I feel like we'll get to the part of why I think it's not, so I'll get there. But I feel like this scene, or this part of the scene, is a little bit touching in a sad way to me.
Yeah.
In that when he wants to be comforting, he goes to Burrick. What did Burrick do? I'm going to emulate that. And I think what's so sad about it to me is that he never got to tell Burrick that he was good at being his father figure. He never got to acknowledge Burrick as his father figure, right? Like, I think a lot of the relationship that Burrick got to know of Fitz and himself is that Fitz basically hated him most of the time, moody teenager stuff, but Fitz was very aloof, I'm sure, in Burrick's point of view.
But also, like, they did have that little reconciliation of like, oh, you thought I killed Nosy all of those years.
Yes.
And
no,
Fitz
for sure.
like, yeah. And Burrick's like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah. But I mean, like, they definitely had a little bit of time where they got to just be plain father-son, no weirdness.
Right.
But
The wit always kind of got in between.
yes. And I think that it's so sad that Fitz has felt the need to separate himself from Burrick for Burrick's happiness. And yet Burrick is still so paramount to who he is in a lot of ways, and how he plans for the future, and how he takes care of animals, and how he takes care of his children.
Right.
And obviously they're very different parents, and they take a lot of different approaches, and they don't see the wit the same way. But I think it's really telling that in this moment, it's not Verity he's emulating, it's not Chade he's emulating, it's Burrick. And I think that really tells you the depth of the relationship that they have, even though we don't get a lot of Fitz admitting that. Because I think Fitz does sort of put Verity up as like, oh, he was my real father figure, sort of, or Chade or whatever, or his weird, I didn't have a father figure because my father abandoned me. Valid. But I think this really gets to the heart of like how important Burrick was in Fitz's life.
Right.
That like when he's feeling down, what comforts him is what Burrick did for him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's how I felt. But yes, there is this whole sort of talking. I don't know if Fitz is purposefully talking too much, like to try to center.
I don't think so either.
Maybe we could chalk it up to he's really scared the prince is addled, or the skill pillar having lasting effects on Fitz as well. But it's kind of surprising to me how much he's saying, knowing that the prince is almost always sharing consciousness with the cat, or at least very often telling the cat whatever he hears.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it feels like a big lapse of judgment. I understand that there's things that led to it, but it's so interesting to see the lapse because it does feel pretty big.
Mm-hmm. And when Dutiful speaks up, Fitz is relieved, but also is like, I hope he wasn't listening too closely to what I was rambling about.
Right.
How do you feel, my prince? I can't feel my cat. A long silence followed. I finally said, I can't feel my wolf either. Sometimes he needs to be separate from me. He was silent for so long that I feared he wasn't going to reply. Then he said, It doesn't feel like that. She's holding us apart. It feels as if I am being punished. Punished for what? I kept my voice even and light, as if we were discussing the weather. For not killing you. For not even trying to kill you. She can't understand why I don't. I can't explain why I don't. But it makes her angry with me. He's listening to Dutiful say this, and there's something very stripped down about Dutiful right now that Fitz can tell. Is like beyond all of the society and manners, he's kind of acting as if like a soldier who went through way too much. There's just so many protections that has been stripped away by the skill pillar that he's just speaking. He's just saying his thoughts.
All of his guards are dropped.
Yeah.
Fitz describes it as.
I counseled myself not to hope that Dutiful trusted me speaking of such things, nor believe it. It was only the hardships he had been through that opened him to me like this. Only that. So Fitz is guarding himself against maybe hope that, like, hey, maybe Dutiful does trust me and like me.
And trying to be like, well, I don't know that it's that. Yeah. Which, I don't know. I feel like there is a little bit of trust happening from Dutiful's point of view.
Yeah, because, I mean, Dutiful is a trusting and well-raised young man.
Yeah. I do think that Dutiful tries to see the best in people, which is how he was swindled so easily by the Piebalds. I think it's why he was able to be taken advantage of.
Yeah.
And it's commendable to be able to see the good in people, but however, this is the part where it gets dangerous if you're not able to understand where your own boundaries are of what's appropriate and like how much trust you give people on like unrequited, I guess. I don't know what word I'm looking for, but just sort of he's so trusting. And so I know that Fitz in this moment is like, oh, it's probably something about what we just went through that's making his guard down. But we do know that later Fitz talks to Dutiful about this moment, and Dutiful says that he really looks up to Fitz for how he treated him during this time, like a
does he?
person.
I don't
Yeah,
remember
there's
that.
like some conversation they have where Dutiful's talking about how like Fitz is so cool for treating him like a person. I think you're the one who talked about it last time we were talking
Oh,
about this.
I think I was referencing it in the fact that like Fitz wasn't afraid to treat him just like a boy and not like a prince.
Yeah. Right. But I think that
You think it extends to this as
extends to this. I think this is sort of a like rough around the edges, but he has been sort of truthful.
Yeah.
And this is a weird situation, and I think he's a smart kid, and I think he can tell that ultimately Fitz is trying to do what's best.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully. Maybe that's just my own naive hope. Maybe I'm letting the hope win for once, but I feel like a little bit this is from a certain level of trust.
Well, Fitz then asks Dutiful here very carefully, "Is she with you now, the woman?" He nodded slowly. "She is always with me now. She won't let me think alone." He swallowed and added hesitantly, "She doesn't want me to talk to you or listen. It's hard. She keeps pushing me." "Do you want to kill me?" Again, there was that pause before he spoke. It was as if he had to digest the words, not simply hear them. When he spoke, he didn't answer my question. "You said she was dead. It made her very angry." "Because it is true. She said she would explain later. She said that should be enough for me." He was not looking at me, but when I gazed at him, he turned his whole head aside as if to be sure he would not see me. "Then she was me, and she attacked you with the knife because I hadn't." I couldn't tell if he was confused or ashamed. "Wouldn't kill me?" I suggested the word. "Wouldn't," the prince admitted. I was amazed at how grateful I was for the small piece of knowledge. He had refused to kill me. I had thought only my skill command had stopped him. "I wouldn't obey her. Sometimes I've disappointed her, but now she is truly angry with me. And they're punishing you for that disobedience by leaving you alone." He shakes his head and says, "No. The cat doesn't care if I kill you or not. She would always be with me, but the woman, she's disappointed that she's not listening, that Dutiful isn't listening to her, basically."
Yeah.
And so
She's
the
separate.
woman separates both of them because the cat and the Dutiful, they love each other. They're bonded.
Yeah.
But the woman has control and is like, "No, as a punishment, you don't get to feel the cat's like reassurance or anything like that."
Right. And I think this sort of situation has really helped Dutiful to understand
That
just
there is an imbalance. There is something wrong.
There's something true about what Fitz is saying. That
Yeah.
like this guy has it right, that maybe it isn't as good as it seems. And
Mhm.
I think that probably has helped him get to this point. But I do want to just quick point out before we continue on that this whole idea that she's with him, she has been pushing him and trying to come into his body and take over, especially after hearing what Fitz said, but just talking about she keeps pushing me. He says, that's not past tense. That's not, she was pushing me. She keeps pushing me, including now. And so that's where I'm wondering if after they come through the skill pillar, if she's trying to like take over or they're having deep internal talk. And that's why he's so unresponsive.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, obviously, he is a little bit vulnerable in some ways, but I think in other ways he's stronger. He has a stronger sense of self in this moment where
Yeah.
she would be trying, because he just went through the skill where Fitz held him together.
True.
And so I feel like potentially there is sort of a back and forth going on that we don't get to know about, that we're never going to fully understand. but I think part of his unresponsiveness to me because of this conversation feels more like it's something to do with the cat and not fully just the skill. But the skill pillar. But I can be wrong. I'm happy to be wrong.
That's a cool explanation as well. So Dutiful's explaining this and ends it with, "The woman thinks that I should have been willing to show that I was worthy of her. How can they trust me if I refuse to prove my loyalty? And you prove your loyalty by killing when you're told to kill?" So Dutiful's silent for a long time, and it gives Fitz time to reflect on what he asked, because he realizes, I don't want Dutiful to be as loyal as I was when I was a kid, because that's what I did.
Yeah.
So I don't want the prince to feel that way. I want him to be free of that kind of influence and having to kill to prove his loyalty.
And that type of quote unquote loyalty.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I think this is really interesting because, again, we get sort of a duality.
Specifically, Kettrikin's son. I did not want
Yes.
Kettrikin's son to feel that.
Yes. Not Verity's son. It's Kettrikin's son that doesn't need to feel that.
Right.
But I feel like this sort of holds up that mirror to Fitz of seeing, again, they're so similar. And I think there's a lot of similarities between how Fitz and Dutiful were raised. I mean, a lot of differences for sure, but there's a lot of similarities between who they are themselves. And so having this moment of like, oh, hey, maybe it also wasn't good that I had to prove my loyalty to the Farseers by killing when I was told to kill, I think is really big and a pretty good revelation to have of like, maybe assassins aren't the way. And I think it does affect how Fitz views what Chade does and Chade's whole side business of still being that like puppet master behind the stage. I think it sticks with him of being bad and not the right way to go about things because of this revelation, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Dutiful responds to this, and you prove your loyalty by killing when you're told to kill, by saying, no, it's more than that, because she wants to make all the decisions her way. There's no back and forth. There's no kind of compromise. Even if she didn't want to kill you and it was something else, I wouldn't have liked what she was doing because she was pushing me out. She was pushing me to the one side, just like he didn't want to admit it. I admired that he had forced himself to, just like I felt her push the cat aside when she didn't want to do cat things, when she was tired of grooming or didn't want to play. The cat doesn't like it either, but she doesn't know how to push back. I did. I pushed her back and she didn't like it. She didn't like that the cat felt me do it either. I think that's the biggest reason why I'm being punished, that I pushed her back. He shook his head, baffled himself, and then said, "She's so real. How can you be sure she's dead?" I found I could not lie to him. I feel it. So does Nighteyes. He says the cat is riddled with her, as if she were parasites worming through her flesh. He felt sorry for the cat. Oh. The word was very small. I glanced back at him and thought he looked more gray than pale now. And Dutiful explains that when he first got the cat, it was looked so healthy and shiny, and they would he would groom the cat, and the cat loved to be groomed all the time. But when they got onto the road, Peladine said that there was no time for that, so the cat's hair grew a little bit more wild and shaggy and rough, and the woman just explained it away by saying, no, that's just the time of year.
Yeah.
And just started ignoring all the cat things.
Right. And the cat lost weight.
Yeah.
And the cat was looking sick. And again, it was just sort of explained away and put to this like, oh, we don't have time to worry about that. It doesn't matter. The cat doesn't care.
And Dutiful's like, I believed her.
Yeah. And looking back now, he can understand how he shouldn't have. And I think Dutiful does feel really bad here thinking about this, because I do believe that there is a true bond happening between him and the cat.
Oh yeah, there is 100%.
It's a weird situation for both of them because it's not how you are supposed to bond. But we know from Fitz's experiences that you can't, just because it's not the way you're supposed to do it doesn't mean that you can't bond. So I think there is just two beings that love each other and want to be bond partners.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman is really like getting in the middle of that and using that to her advantage.
Fitz says, I took no pleasure in telling you that. And Dutiful's like, I suppose it doesn't matter now. And Fitz is pondering that for a while. And then Dutiful speaks up again, saying, I believe so many things she told me, but I already knew that. They're coming now. The crow has fetched them. A sudden note of remorse came into his voice. His words were halting. They knew to watch the standing stone from all the legends of such stones, but she wouldn't let me tell you that until now, when it doesn't matter. She finds it humorous now. He suddenly sat up straight in the saddle. Life came back into his face. Oh, Cat, he breathed. So Fitz is now like panicking. He's like, oh, that's what Dutiful means by, I suppose it doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
Because they're back in the clutches of the Piebalds, basically. And Fitz knows that the woman, would not have told Dutiful to tell Fitz if he wasn't truly fully caught. He like could get away at all. Right. So he is fully surrounded. He knows that. He just can't see anything. He's thinking about like, what can I do? Like mount my black and we'll limp off into the the distance. Like it's not going to work.
It's not. And he says even if he did mount my black, ride them to my black's death, like literally ride the horse to death to get them closer to Buckkeep, it doesn't matter. Fitz has no allies out here. Mm-hmm. There is nothing, like it wouldn't be enough even then. And so this is just a really like scary situation of there's not a lot of options. They're closing in. What do I do?
And at last, he just drops all of his restraint and his walls and reaches out to his wolf one last time.
Right.
To see if he's alive. And he is.
And it's worse that he knows now.
Because it's just a wall of pain and Nighteyes is blocking him out. Nighteyes probably isn't even aware of Fitz reaching at him.
Right.
Just like a snarling rictus, this is pain, everyone stay out.
He says, I wondered if he was even aware of me. It reminded me of a soldier clutching his sword beyond his ability to use it, or of wolves, jaws locked on each other's throats, dying together. And so that's not like a great image to have going into this. Don't worry, guys, it's not the chapter. But yeah, it's not looking good for Nighteyes for sure. And now Fitz has to know that going into whatever decision he makes. Mm-hmm. I do want to quick ask before we get further, what do you think Dutiful was going to say when he's saying, I believe so many things she told me, but I already knew that. And then that's when he says they're coming now. What did he already know?
I don't know.
Already knew that maybe Nighteyes wasn't so bad because Nighteyes has sympathy for the cat. I don't know. I would love to know what he already knew. Also, I have a question about the direction that they are going from the
barrows,
the pillar. Yeah. Where did they go? Because Fitz doesn't really mention.
No, it's not really talked
where
about.
they are going or the idea. He says we're just walking and finding a decision. Then he goes towards the woods. I'm so curious to know if maybe I was wrong earlier when I said Fitz always there's a difference between the animals and humans and the wit bond because Fitz needs to touch Nighteyes to know where to go. Maybe he was going towards Nighteyes. Maybe he was already going towards Piebalds. Maybe not. Maybe he was going towards Buck and we're just supposed to assume that that's the direction he would head.
I think this is one of those instances where Robin Hobb didn't include it because it doesn't matter.
Right. They're getting thwarted either way. And, I mean, if you think about it, maybe he just picked a random direction and went because he's out of it and he needs to find shelter. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know.
Well, in the space that it takes him to reach out to Nighteyes, the Piebalds appear all around. They are very slowly closing the ring like a noose around them, riding unconcernedly, basically. They know they have him caught. Later, we learn that there are a dozen of them, including the man on the warhorse, who we find out in this chapter is Lodwine. Mm-hmm. And they are just kind of riding closer. So he draws his sword and he waits. But it's so long getting to him that he's like, okay, they gave me far too much time to think.
Right.
And he puts his sword away and grabs his knife instead.
Also, he has the thought that he wishes that he was dying with Verity's blade instead of a random one.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, a little bit sad.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather die with Verity's blade. But also, he specifically says, death rode toward me from every direction. And I think that's so interesting to have that thought of, like, death is coming and having that sword ready. And then because there's time, realizing that doesn't have to happen right away. There are still options, even if it's not running away. I just have to be smart.
And also, well, if death is coming, then I'm going to die no matter what. I can make the last moments worthwhile for the kingdom.
Exactly.
So he gets his knife out instead of his sword, says, get down to Dutiful, and then he wraps his arms around the prince and puts the knife to Dutiful's throat, saying, I'm sorry, but you are better dead than what the woman plans for you.
I will say he tells him to get off the horse as a command before wrapping his arms around, so they're both on the ground.
Yep.
When he does that.
He stood quite still in my grip. I didn't know if he didn't want to risk resistance or if he didn't care to resist. How do you know what she intends for me? He asked me evenly. Because I know what I would do. That statement wasn't quite true, I told myself. I'd never take over another person's body and mind simply for the sake of extending my life. I was too noble for that. So noble that I'd kill my prince before I'd let him be used that way. So noble that I'd kill him, knowing my daughter must then die as well. I didn't want to look too closely at that reasoning, so I held my knife to the throat of Verity's only heir and watched the Piebalds come. So he waits until they're a little bit closer and then says, come any closer and I kill him.
Yeah. So, not looking good.
Yeah.
I think that this moment to me is where he knows that Fitz is going to kill him no matter what, because later he
plays along
kind
of knows that it's coming either way.
Yeah, because I don't know. So because he does play along, but I think this is where he realizes that Fitz means it. Like this isn't a game. This isn't there's no way they're getting out of this. And so
he felt Fitz's conviction on the beach and he knows kind of what's going on.
Yeah. So we have that. And then, Fitz telling them, don't come any closer, I'll kill him. And we get our first look at Lodwine through Fitz's eyes.
Yeah. And it's a pretty good view, except that he's with the Piebalds and mocking him a man before he dies.
Yeah. Fitz says that if it were different circumstances, Lodwine would be somebody he would see as someone he could be friends with.
Yeah.
And throughout Lodwine's parts here, where Lodwine speaks, I feel like you really get the sense of him being super charismatic and just a pretty good, a good speaker. I don't want to say good person, but a good speaker. And he presents his stuff well in a way that makes it really clear that sometimes the worst people are really good leaders.
Right. Yeah. And Fitz remarks that he's a warrior as well. And Fitz has a lot of respect for people who are soldiers, not brigands, not highwaymen, but he's sitting his horse properly like a warrior. He's tall, dark, and handsome and leading his men like a soldier. It's all these descriptors of people that Fitz has admired in the past.
Yeah. And so if it wasn't in this moment, he could see them being friendly and being friends. And instead, he has to deal with the fact that this is not a good person. He gives off the aura of, I guess.
Yeah. So there's that first, offer that Fitz says, come any closer and I'll kill the prince. And there's a couple little bantery back and forth. And Lodwine finally says, so that's my counteroffer. Give us the boy and I'll kill you quickly. You have my word on that. Such a kind offer. His grave manner and careful speech convinced me he would honor it. Quick death sounded very appealing when I considered the alternatives, but I hated dying without having the last word. Very well, I conceded, but he costs you more than my life. Release the wolf and the Tawny Man. Then I'll give you your prince, and you can kill me. The prince stood motionless in the circle of my arm and knife. I scarcely felt him breathe, and yet I could feel him listening, as if my words soaked into him like water into dry earth. The fine web of skill between us warned me that there was something else going on. He reached out with his unholy combination of wit and skill to someone. I readied my muscles lest the woman wrest control of his body from him. Are you lying? Dutiful asked me so softly that I scarcely heard him. But was that question from Dutiful or the cat's woman? I'm telling the truth, I lied sincerely. If they release Lord Golden and the wolf, I'll free you. To your death, in his mind, he says. And the second throat I'd cut would be mine. So he has that counteroffer to Lodwine again, like, hey, release the wolf and the Tawny Man. Then I'll give you the prince and you can kill me fast. Like, how about that?
Right. Well, because the first offer was just release, or like leave us or I'll kill him. And Lodwine has to point out there's nothing in that for us.
Right.
Like, you got to give a better offer.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you're going to die. So either way.
And now Lodwine says, like, no, too late for that. They're already dead. I'm afraid.
And Fitz says, no, they're not.
Yeah. Aren't they? I'd know if the wolf died. So now there's confirmation to Lodwine, like, okay, so this is actual confirmation, like we thought so before.
Yeah.
You're old blood, so why are you against us?
Yeah, and so now he's going into a spiel. He's going into the whole, like, join our cause. You could do it, brother.
Mm-hmm.
You seem like a
Why do you
fine
support
man.
it? The floggings, the hangings, the quartering, and the burning, why do you support it? Do you like what is being done to us?
Which I think this is such an interesting thing for Hobb to have written. The characters say this is such a good manipulation tactic, right?
And the description is here: warmth for me shone in his eyes, and genuine curiosity came into his voice. Like, yeah. It's not like a taunting evil man before me.
No, this is a friend. This is a person who wants to be friends. And I think it's such good writing to me of a bad person, because you can feel that Lodwine probably really believes in this cause for this reason.
100%.
And truly thinks that this is a respectful thing to ask. Like, oh, are you fine with all the things they're doing to our people? Like, why?
Because I'm sure he's convinced multiple, like tens of other people to join his cause with this kind of speech. Like,
exactly.
What do you mean? You support all of these things?
And of course, as someone who could be affected, you're not going to say, yes, I support it,
right.
Most likely. And so it's like that little fallacy there of like, well, if you don't support that, why wouldn't you support us? Because we're against that. See, it's not so bad of a movement. We just want equal treatment, except we also want to kill the prince. But other than that...
Well, no, not kill the prince.
No, take over the prince.
Yes.
But yeah, so I think it's so interesting to see this manipulation work, especially with Fitz, who is aware of what's happening, aware of the manipulation, and knows what the outcome is if these people win.
Right. And he's trying to say this out loud to everyone listening, not just Lodwine, in hopes that, like, not everyone is in on the plan and can maybe feel disgusted that, like, hey, you're going against old blood things. Like, I know what you're going to do to this boy.
Yeah.
How can you condone what she has done to her cat, let alone what she wishes to do to the prince? The light in the big man's eyes went cold. He is a farseer. Can anything be done to him that he does not merit 1,000 times over? At those words, the prince stiffened in my grasp. Lodwine, is that truly what you believe? The youth and incredulity in Dutiful's voice was heartbreaking. You spoke me fair when I rode with you. You said that eventually I could become the king who would unite all my folk under equal justice. You said... Lodwine shook his head in disdain for Dutiful's gullibility. I would have said anything to have you come along quietly. I bought enough time with fair words until the bond was knitted strong enough. I've had signs through the cat that the task is done. Peladine can take you any time now. If there was not a knife at your throat just now, she'd already have you. But Peladine has no wish to die twice. Once was quite enough for her. Hers was a slow death, coughing and gasping as she grew weaker every day. Even my mother's was swifter. They hung her, true, but she was not quite dead when they cut her in quarters to feed their fire. And my father, well, I am sure that the time in which he watched regal Farseer's soldiers dispose of my mother seemed to last years. He smiled unpleasantly at Dutiful. So you see, my family's relationship with the Farseers is a long one. The debt is an old one, Prince Dutiful. I think the only pleasant time that Paladine has had in her last year were the hours in which we spent planning this for you. It is only fitting that a Farseer should actually restore a life for the ones that have been taken from me. And Fitz is like, okay, we come down to it. That's what it is.
And there it was, the seed of hate from which all this had sprung. Once more, the Farseers did not have to see far to know whence their ill fortune came. The prince's pitfall was built from his uncle's arrogance and cruelty. Hatred was the legacy Regal had bequeathed to me as well, but my heart closed against the sympathy that flared in me. The Piebalds were my enemy. And I think this is pretty big, right? There is sympathy for what has happened to Paladine and Lodwine.
Right.
Paladine and Lodwine. I think that it is horrible that they were caught up in Regal's whole scourge of witted people.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that there's no excuse to then turn around and harm a child because of what their uncle did. Like, mind you, not
and
even...
That's what Fitz's point is, right?
Yes, exactly, yeah. But, like, I think it's just... I mean, obviously the grief was great, right? Like, Lodwine has lost a lot. a lot in this. And so I get it, but also it's just so horrific to then use that to justify hurting more people.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, well, he doesn't matter because he's a Farseer, which is the exact logic the Farseers were using to kill you and your family and your kind. You know, it's just sad. And I think, to me, reading this and listening to Lodwine speak, it doesn't get brought up by Fitz at all, which he's running a bit, so, you know. But it doesn't get brought up by the prince either. Why does nobody talk about how Kettrican is trying? Kettrican's trying to make things better. They don't care. It's not enough. It's not...
Because there was that whole thing that Jade was telling Fitz that, like, yeah, she sent out stuff, but the Dukes are just still, like, there's still, you know, hangings and burnings in their things, and they're not doing anything about that. So, like, yeah, a king or a queen can make a command, but if they don't follow it, then it's an ineffectual command and they're not actually doing anything.
Yeah. Okay. But I guess my point was more, it's clear that the prince actually has family that is sympathetic to the cause.
Right.
And is part of them. So maybe he could have been swayed in normal ways. It just like had to go too far. And so I think it's like the blindness to actual change that is meaningful and could help is within grasp. And you're turning that down to do the most violent, evil, cruel thing you can to the oppressor because they hurt you first. And it's just so frustrating, which, yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to couch it. I think we can understand that there's nuance, but it's just really hard and it's frustrating to read. I think especially because I'm Team Fitz, obviously. We all are. We all love Fitz. We love Kettrican even, and I think that it's hard to read these people take such an ill view of characters that we know are better than the view that they're giving them. But I think if you look at it objectively from the Piebalds' perspective, they don't know that these are good people that want to do what's best. They only know the suffering that they've had.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So Fitz hears that whole thing. He's like, okay, well, another thing that came from Regal. And he's guessing at the relationship between Lodwine and Paladine, but says he's surprised after he asks Lodwine, who is this Paladine to you? And Lodwine responds, she was my womb sister, my twin, as like to me as woman can be to man. Bereft of her, I am the last of my line. Is that reason enough for you? No, but it is for you. You would do anything to have her live again in human flesh. You'd help her steal this boy's body to house her mind, even though that goes against every old blood teaching we hold dear. I let my voice ring with righteousness. If my words shocked any of his warriors, they hid it well. So again, he's trying to reach out to the people surrounding him, but they're not showing any reaction.
No.
And Lodwine speaks up and is like, well, there's more to it than a brother's grief. Because there's actually the political side to it as well. Like, if we have somebody there, we can make things better for witted folk. We can reveal that the Farseers have the wit as much as they have the skill.
Yeah.
And make it something accepted, or at least force people to accept us.
Right. And not only that, but you have to, he wants Fitz to sort of get out of the old way of thinking. It's holding us back. It's because we're afraid of what we can be. What if we weren't afraid?
It's a gift from Ida and we should use it, is what Lodwine says.
There is great opportunity here for all of us who bear old blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's something that, like, we kind of talked about at the beginning of this book, that yes, that it is about getting a person to live again, right? Getting Paladine into a body to live again and be a human. But they do have a political angle to it as well.
Yeah, there is also sort of that want to be free, which I think is so fair.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to have a younger generation seeing the rules from the older generation and being like, you're just too afraid. You don't know that that's bad. I mean, we see Fitz do this whenever Burek tells him that wit is bad. He says, no, you're too close-minded. I mean, that one's way less bad, but I think it does speak to like a younger generation sort of trying to find their own way in this new world that is persecuting them more than it previously had, of like, well, why are we holding ourselves back if they're not, and we could be doing so much more. And I think that that's also a really interesting thing to think on, is that these people do want to have more power and be free to use that. And Fitz uses this speech to sort of look like he's thinking, and he is thinking about the decision he has to make, but he wants them to think he's being swayed by what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because
and Robin Hobb wants the reader to think that too, a little bit.
Yeah. So he talks about how he's sort of letting Lodwine know that he's imagining, weighing the options in his mind. If I did as he wished, the Farseer line would still have its heir, in body at least. Nettle could live a life of her own, free of fate's entangled web, and there might be a good in it for the old blood and the six duchies. All I had to do was surrender Dutiful to a life of torment. The fool and my wolf could go free, and Nettle could live, and perhaps the old blood could eventually be free of persecution. Even I could live. Give up a boy I scarcely know to buy all of that. One single life weighed against all those others. I made my decision. If I thought you spoke true, I began, and then halted and stared at Lodwine. You might come over to us, he says. So Fitz is playing into, you've swayed me to your cause.
Right, yeah, and he kind of gets Jinna's charm off from his neck so they can see that, like, hey, yeah, you like me. Trust my words, you know?
He's hoping that this makes them more favorable to him. They make him see him in a new light.
And then he says, I spoke my coward's speech. I could be useful to you, Lodwine. The queen expects Lord Golden to bring the prince back to her. If you kill him and the prince goes back alone, they will wonder what became of Golden and why. If you let us live and we take the prince back to them, well, I can explain away the changes in his demeanor. They'll accept him back unquestioningly. I watched Lodwine convince himself, and Lord Golden would go along with what you said. And Fitz is like, oh, he doesn't have the wit, only the eyes to tell him that we have regained the prince alive and unharmed. He will think only of his hero's welcome at Buckkeep. He will believe that I negotiated the prince's freedom and be glad to claim the credit for it at court. In fact, he will witness me doing it. Take us to where you hold him. Let us make a show for him. Send him on his way with my wolf, assuring him that the prince and I will follow. I nodded sagely as if confirming the thought to myself. Actually, it is best if he is well on his way. He should not witness the woman taking over the boy. He might wonder what was amiss with him. Let Lord Golden be gone first. You seem very concerned for his safety. I shrugged. He pays me well to do very little, and he tolerates my wolf. We are both getting on in years. Such a post is not easily found. Lodwine grinned, but in his eyes I saw his secret contempt for my servant's ethic. I opened my collar more. He glanced at Dutiful. The boy's eyes were fixed on his face. A problem, Lodwine observed softly. The boy has no benefit in our bargain. He may well betray it to Lord Golden.
Which I just want to, pause in the middle of this to say, I thought that Paladine has control over what he can and can't say, so why would you be worried that she's going to not be able to keep him from speaking what you don't want? I don't know. Maybe he doesn't know how it works.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the first time it's ever been attempted in a while.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, yeah.
So Dutiful is starting to draw breath, and Fitz is tightening his grip, like wishing him to shut up so he can think of something to answer.
Mm-hmm.
But Dutiful just goes on and speaks anyways, saying, My interest is in living, however poor an existence it may become, and in my cat. For she is true to me, even if your sister is false to both of us. I will not abandon the cat to her. And if she takes my body from me, then perhaps that is the price I must pay for letting a piebald make a fool of me with promises of fellowship and love. His voice was steady and pitched to carry. Beyond Lodwine's shoulder, I saw two of his riders look aside as if Dutiful's words pained them, but no one spoke up on his behalf. That's why I kept mentioning that Fitz was trying to make the followers kind of feel bad.
Yes.
And then Dutiful's speech here is the one to like, oh, well, I mean, we do feel bad about it because we got to know Dutiful, but also we're not going to speak up against everything.
No, it's too late. Yeah. And I think part of the effectiveness of Dutiful's speech is that, number one, he is sort of being selfless in this act of like, fine, I'll give it up for my cat.
Yes.
Which is old blood. That is, they believe in that equality of the animals and respecting your bond partner. And so to have somebody who isn't even raised the way you're supposed to be raised as old blood, who is a farseer, say, well, you know what? I thought we had fellowship and I was promised fellowship and love, and I care too much about my cat. And so maybe that's just the price I pay. I think it would get to you a little bit more than a stranger who is saying, you know, like,
remember your ways.
Yeah, remember the old ways. So
So Lodwine agrees. He's like, yep, our pact is made. Take your knife from the boy's throat. And Fitz is like, Fitz
is like, gave him my wolf's smile in return. I think not just yet. You have said this Paladine can take him at any time. Perhaps if she does, you will think you have no need of me. You might kill me. Let your sister have the boy, and then present him to Lord Golden, the hostage freed to return the court. No, we will do it my way. Besides, this lad may change his feelings about what we do. The knife helps him remember that my will is what will be. And Fitz is hoping that Dutiful can understand the message in that, which is that he's going to kill them both. But
right, yeah.
But he doesn't know. He doesn't know how much Dutiful has ever been trained by, or how much Dutiful has been trained by Chade. I think, okay, so I said before that
you think Dutiful understood that Fitz was ready, willing, and is still willing to kill Dutiful in that moment.
Yes, but I think the reason that Dutiful is working with Fitz is also because his revelation that actually these people hate him.
Right.
Like, to his face.
No, yeah, that is true. Yeah. If Lodwine was still like kind of nice, I don't think Dutiful would play along as much.
No, I think he would tell him.
I think he'd be extremely conflicted.
Right.
But I think ultimately, yeah.
But I think hearing that
betrayal.
Yeah. And not only that betrayal, but Fitz was telling the truth. Paladine is dead. Mm-hmm. She is not alive. She is riding with the cat, and she plans to take over the prince.
Yeah, Lodwine did not deny any of that.
Nope.
He confirmed it and said, yeah.
He said, yeah, that is the truth.
Yep.
And so Fitz is like, see? So I think that has really helped Fitz's cause without him even realizing,
Yeah.
because it's clear that Fitz cares more about the prince than these people that he thought were his friends do.
Yeah. So Fitz is like at the end saying, let me see Lord Golden remounted, set free with my wolf at his side. Then I know we're going to have this whole plan worked out and it'll be good. So Fitz knows that this is an extremely feeble plan, as he says. My true strategy went no further than getting them to take us to the Fool and Nighteyes. At some point, Prince Dutiful had put his hand on Fitz's hand that held the knife. It kind of looks like he's resisting, but it almost feels to Fitz that as if he's keeping the knife there to his neck. And eventually they have to get mounted, and Prince Dutiful is a very willing captive at this point. And Fitz is like, he's almost too willing. I hope Lodwine doesn't see through this.
Yeah, it's good that he's being willing in some ways, but in others, it's making it harder for Fitz's conscience. And it's just like a tough, I got to make this whole thing a good sell.
Right. And Fitz is wishing that Dutiful has some training in the skill at this point because he wishes he could talk to him. He can only really sense Prince Dutiful's anxiety and determination. Determination to do what I could not divine.
Right. It's really hard. I think it's good that Fitz and Dutiful can't skill to each other because then the woman would know everything.
Yeah.
But there is sort of that fear of, can I trust Dutiful in this? This is going to be a lot. And he talks then about how My Black is pretty unhappy because she's hurt and has to carry 2 riders.
And Fitz is really unhappy because he could permanently disable her as well.
Yes. And so he's frustrated, which also is kind of a crazy move for Lodwine, considering his preferred animal is horses. You'd think he would have more sympathy for other horses.
You'd think.
But I guess not. I mean, just because I guess you're bonded to one horse doesn't mean you care about every horse, but
right.
I don't know.
So Fitz is looking around at all the people accompanying them. He sees that it's an even dozen. The people do not look well disposed towards him. He sees the women that in the group that he had attacked before to get the prince the first time, but does not see either of the men that he had injured while getting the prince. And they are turning, on the trail. They're turning around, going through the forest, cutting past the hillsides. The land we crossed hummocked oddly, and I soon decided that many years ago a town of some sort had stood here. Meadow and woods had taken the land again, but land that has borne the plow ever lies flatter. Moss had coated the stony walls that had once divided pasture land, and grass grew atop that, amidst the thistle and bramble that seemed to love such stony places. No one lives forever, the walls seemed to say. 4 stones stacked atop one another will outlive all your dreams and will still stand when your descendants have long forgotten that you lived here. Dutiful was silent as we rode. I kept my knife at his ribs, and he does believe that if he kind of felt any inkling that Paladine was pushing her way into his body, he would have killed him.
Right. I don't know if I believe that, but Fitz seems to.
Right.
I also want to point out that the fact that Fitz notices that the landscape feels as though there used to be a town there really points to the likelihood of our little fun fan theory of this Standing Stone being a place where Elderlings fled during the calamity.
Tried to rebuild
and
or something.
tried to rebuild, yeah. And so it just was a really long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that's a really fun little detail that would be worth mentioning.
So at last they get to a cave. Long ago, someone had added stone walls to extend the space. The remnants of a wooden gate hung drunkenly to one side. Sheep, I thought. It would be a good place to hold sheep at night, with the cave for shelter if rain or snow came too strong. My Black lifted her head and gave a whinny of greeting to Malta and the 3 other horses tethered there. I made it 15 of them, a respectable force to take on, even if there had been more than one of me.
So really crucial detail that I forgot to mention as we went, but this whole time Fitz is referring to Lodwine and the people around him as warriors or warrior-esque and like soldier-like.
Yes.
And he is just sort of seeing this as a militia almost. Like the way he's describing it is
because that's the description that they feared that he and Shade kind of workshopped.
Yes.
And like, we're wondering if this is a witted army. And that's what he's been seeing as he goes along. Like, oh, super organized. They go to this inn and they're not afraid to lose men.
Yes.
And like keep fighting.
And here there's 12 people that are not swayed by new information.
Right.
Like this is an army basically. And so I think that's really important because as Fitz gets in to this place and sees where they're staying, he starts understanding that this isn't
they're brigands.
Yeah, this isn't really warriors. This is brigands.
Yeah. So he dismounts, gets Prince down. The prince's eyes seemed glassy and distant, and his lips were moving as if he whispered to himself, but I heard nothing. I set the knife firmly to his throat. If she tries to take him before the others are freed, I'll still kill him, I warned them. Lodwine looked surprised by my threat. Then, Paladine, he bellowed. In reply, a hunting cat came bounding out of the cave. She fixed me with a hateful stare. Her slow advance toward me was the angry step of a thwarted woman, not a cat's stalk. The prince had dropped his gaze to the cat. He said nothing, but I felt the ragged sigh of his breath as it escaped him. Lodwine advanced to the cat and then went down on one knee to speak quietly to her. Basically says, struck a bargain. If we let his friends live, he'll help the transition and you'll be good and accepted into the castle.
Which also makes me feel like he does not understand that she was there and watching, because according to Dutiful, she never leaves him alone anymore. So she was there watching everything happen. She wasn't in charge.
Right. But also, she's not like, she never makes a big deal about the speech that Fitz had or anything. So sometimes I feel like she just doesn't listen because she didn't want Dutiful to listen to Fitz. So I feel like she's always there, but maybe just not paying attention.
I guess. I don't know. It's just so weird because it's little things like that where I don't understand. Is it that other people don't know? Is it that she doesn't care? Like, what's sort of the vibe here? But either way, she gets explained the plan too, and she doesn't seem very happy at this plan.
But it's assumed to be agreed upon. Lodwine says, your friends are in the cave. Let's go inside. And Fitz doesn't want to go, obviously. Outside, you have some, maybe ways of escape. Inside, you got nothing.
You're cornered.
Yep. So he dismounts and goes in, and they're walking through this cave. And this is where, as you mentioned, Fitz kind of gets disillusioned to the fact that it's not a military encampment. So the thought warned me that I should not be entirely confident that Lodwine had control of his people because they followed him did not mean they were subject to him. That cheery thought was entertaining as I searched the shadowy interior of the cave while Lodwine was quietly conferring with the folk he had left on guard there. No one was in charge of them. He's walking around. He's seeing kind of disorganization and like, ooh, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
It's not so much listening to all of Lodwine's commands, but following him for the moment.
Yeah. And also, really importantly, it's not necessarily safer for him because it's still mob mentality, right? Like,
right.
It just means that he needs to be on careful footing. This isn't as organized as he had previously thought. But he is also in this moment taking the chance to unbutton his collar a little bit more, show the charm, and smile disarmingly to everyone. He is trying to get them on his side through any means necessary and get them to let their guards down. Mm-hmm. And it's helpful that he is walking towards the back of the cave,
right,
and not trying to escape. So everybody's kind of ignoring him for the most part in this moment, because why would you care if somebody's going towards the back of the cave if they're not going to be able to get away?
Yeah, Fitz kind of decides that, it's not a witted army, it's a witted mob. And I will go back as we're alone, because they're all listening to Lodwine, try to speak to my friends quick.
Yes. And what he finds is heartbreaking. He sees two shapes sort of huddled, and his wolf is sleeping with the Fool sort of protectively draped over him, and they are on top of the Fool's ripped up, dirty cloak at this point, and it's just not looking good for either of them.
They're both filthy. The Fool had a strip of bandaging tied around his brow. The gold of his skin had gone sallow, and one side of his face was marred with bruises. Someone had taken his boots, and his narrow, pale feet looked bruised and vulnerable. The wolf's throat was matted with blood and saliva, and his breathing had a whistle in it. I wanted to drop to my knees beside them, but I feared to take my knife from Dutiful's throat. "Wake up," I bade them quietly. "Wake up, you two. I've come back for you." The wolf's ears flicked, and then he opened an eye to me. He shifted, trying to lift his head, and the stirring woke the Fool as well. He opened his eyes and stared at me, unbelieving. Despair dragged at his face. "You have to get up," I warned him quietly. "I've struck a bargain with the Piebalds, but you'll have to get up and be ready to move. Can you walk? Both of you?" What sort of bargain?" He looked at the charm at my throat and made a small sound and deliberately pulled his eyes away. Hastily, I tugged my collar closed. Fitz doesn't want any part of the Fool's brain affected during this and wants his wits about him.
Right.
This brings me back to the conversation we had about the charm and if the Fool was affected by it. And a lot of people, not a lot, a few people wrote in, and there was a couple theories that the Fool was not affected by them. He could just tell it was magic, right?
Right.
This makes it seem, again, that he is affected by this charm.
Yes. Yeah. And on some level, he's affected. I don't know if it's as effective as it is towards humans, but it is still effective towards him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But as they're having this conversation, Lodwine is already on his way back, which again points to Paladine being with the prince, knowing that they're having a secret conversation and wanting that to not happen because the cat is with Lodwine. So they are coming towards to be like, "Hey, why are you trying to talk to your friends alone?"
And Fitz is speaking up loudly for their sake, saying, "You two go free, or I kill the prince. But once you are free, the prince and I will follow. Trust me." And then the time to speak alone was gone. Lodwine and the cat join them. Nighteyes stands up, his hindquarters swaying, and takes a staggering step sideways before he recovers. He smelled foul of old blood and piss and infection. I did not have a hand free to touch him. I was too busy threatening Dutiful's life. He came to lean his bloodied head against my leg, and our thoughts flowed in the contact. "Oh, Nighteyes, little brother, you lie." "Yes, I lie to them all." "Can you get the scentless one back to Buckkeep for me?" "Probably not." "It eases my heart to hear you say that. It's so much better than 'we'll all die here.' I would rather stay and die beside you. I would rather not witness that. It would distract me from what I must do." "What of Nettle, then?" This thought was harder to share with him. "I cannot steal the life of one for the sake of the other. I do not have that right. If we all must die, then—" My thoughts sputtered to a halt. I thought of the strange moments that I'd shared in the flow of the skill with that great other presence. I groped for some sort of comfort for us. Perhaps the Fool is wrong, and time cannot be shifted from its course. Perhaps it is all determined before we are born. Or perhaps the next White Prophet will choose a better catalyst. I felt him dismiss my philosophical musing. "Give him a clean death, then." "I will try."
So, yeah.
Yeah, with Fitz saying like, "Hey, you and the Fool are going to walk out of here." Nighteyes is like, "I'm not making it back to Buckkeep. I'm going to die. And I'd rather be by you." And Fitz is like, "We can't be together because it's just going to distract me. And I need to kill Dutiful and then myself."
Yeah. It's
Like, maybe the Fool can live.
so sad and horrible because, you don't want.
Right. Yeah. Because
you know, I don't have to explain. I know that's the point of a podcast, but this is tough. And it's hard because they both do truly believe they're dying.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them is right. But the fact that Nighteyes isn't well, Nighteyes is not going to make it in any sense.
Fitz describes him later. My wolf was a tottering step or two from death.
Yeah. Well, he says here that when Fitz responds to the make it a clean death saying, I will try, he says, it was the merest trickle of a thought between us, sieved through his pain and caution. And it was like rain after the drought.
Yeah.
And so obviously, I also want to talk about the fact that Nighteyes has to touch Fitz to get this wit connection across. I feel like
I think that's because they're surrounded by old blood and they've been doing that since Gaelton. I think that's why.
But you think that the old blood don't know that they're sharing thoughts right now?
Oh, I think they for sure are sharing thoughts, yeah, but this way they can't be like spied upon.
Okay. I feel like you could still talk at a distance without people hearing you. They know you're talking, they just can't hear what you're saying.
Yeah, maybe. But remember, they are loud.
They are loud, but they have been trained in how to not be loud.
Not good enough for Black Rolf, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just don't think that they want to take that chance is my...
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well then, I guess
but
my theory doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, it still could, though. Like, you think that because he's so close to death and so injured that they have to touch in order to connect?
Yeah, I'm wondering if it's too much strength, especially with how much he's trying to keep back from Fitz.
Right.
Like, because he is dying and there is all this pain and hurt that he doesn't want to share with Fitz in this moment. I'm just wondering if, like, there is that sort of, I need to, like, get physically touch you so I have more control over this and I can't control it otherwise.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. But they only talk from this point on if they're physically touching. And I want to say that this probably is good that they're doing this because Fitz is trying to play that role of like, hey, we're joining their team. Like, as far as the other people know.
Right. Yeah.
He's explaining to his wit partner what they're doing and like what the plan is. So it's not that weird that they're talking to each other in this moment. Nobody's like, that's suspicious. They just accept it.
Mm-hmm. And once again, the fool just kind of has to trust Fitz's word here. And Fitz describes him as standing up and then becoming Lord Golden again as Lodwine is talking to him. The Piebalds leader's voice was rich and polished, his powers of persuasion like a warming cloak. Behind him, his followers fanned out to witness. Your friend has summed it up for you. I have proven to his satisfaction that we never intended to hurt the prince, only to let him see for himself that those of us you call witted are not evil beings to be torn to pieces, but simply humans with a special gift from Ida. It was all we desired, that our prince could be shown that. We regret the depth of our misunderstanding, and that you have been injured in the process of sorting it out. But now you may take your horse and go free. The wolf also. Your friend and the prince will come after you shortly. All of you will return to Buckkeep, where it is our earnest hope that Prince Dutiful will speak out on our behalf. Lord Golden's eyes traveled from Lodwine to me and back again. And the reason for the knife is? Lodwine's deprecatory smile spoke volumes. Your servant has little trust in us, I fear. Despite our assurances, he feels he must threaten Prince Dutiful until he is satisfied you are freed. I commend you for having such a loyal servant. I could have driven cattle through the gap in his logic. A slight flicker in Lord Golden's eyes told me of his doubts, but at my slow nod, he bobbed his own assent. He did not know the game, but he trusted me. Before the day was out, he would curse that trust. I closed my heart against that thought. This poor bargain was the best I could do for any of us. I forced the betrayal from my lips. My lord, if you would take my good dog and go, I will soon follow after with the prince. I doubt we shall go far or swift this day. As you can see, your dog is grievously hurt. No need to hurry. I shall be along to join you soon, and we can make our way home together. Lord Golden's face remained concerned but calm. Perhaps only I was aware of all that battled within him. The situation did not make sense to him, but I obviously wanted him to take the wolf and leave. I almost saw him make his choice. And so he fully embodies Lord Golden and becomes the affronted noble of like, finally, you've come to your senses. I will have to report to the queen about all of this, like brushing off his cloak. Like, of course, bring me back my boots and my horse and all of those sorts of things that a noble would do.
Right. And Fitz is a little bit annoyed with this comment of course I'm going to have to report to the queen. And, Fitz just wants
him to shut up, basically.
Yeah, him to shut up and stop talking. Like,
yeah, don't ruin this.
Yeah, I'm trying to get you to safety. You're ruining it. And luckily, Lodwine is sort of like, oh, well, of course. But when the prince gives his account of how nice we were, it won't really matter.
Exactly.
And sort of, So obviously, Lodwine doesn't care. He thinks this plan is great. I genuinely can't tell if... And I think it's because I don't remember what happens next, but I can't tell if Lodwine is just going along with this or if he believes that this is a good plan.
I don't remember, but if you look at it from his perspective, even if he believes this is like a fake thing, there's no risk because they can't move. Like the wolf is going to die soon anyways. Lord Golden can't really do much right now.
Right.
And he's in the middle of the wilderness with all of these people surrounding them. If it goes wrong, Paladin is still going to take the boy,
Right.
And they have the prince, and that's what matters.
Right.
That is the most important thing to them. So Fitz, even though this is his plan, he's like, okay, we're going to do this. There's no way he's thinking, I'm going to kill the prince and then myself. Like, that's not...
Yeah.
That's not in Lodwine's wheelhouse. He's like, I've convinced people before. People want to live. Like... His wolf is alive. Why would he kill himself?
Right. And if he does, it doesn't matter if he's dead, whatever.
Exactly. We got the prince, that's the only thing. Fitz is like, he was perfection as an affronted noble, yet I nearly roared at him to shut up and get away while they could. Throughout, the miscat watched Dutiful as a house cat watches a mouse hole. I could almost feel the woman's hunger to possess him completely. I had no faith that she would be bound by Lodwine's bargain any more than his mob. If she moved to take him, if Dutiful showed any sign of her invading him, I would have to kill him whether the fool had escaped or not. I desperately wanted them gone. So then the fool is looking at every single face, scanning it, pausing, and memorizing all of their faces. Fitz knows for sure he's memorizing their faces, but to everyone else... it kind of looks like he's doing that. He's just staring at them briefly for a half a second each going around before he takes his leave.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's so hard. I think part of my confusion about all this especially stems from, yes, he's playing the part now, but he wasn't, when he was being held captive. So I just wonder what the read is that everybody's having of so does he care about wooded people? Does he not care? Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it's not a...
You can probably dismiss it if you're getting beaten or
yeah, I guess.
Abused in some sort.
That wasn't who he had normally... Yeah. Now he, of course, a noble would...
Because he drew a sword and was defending,
Right.
All the while, the prince stood in the circle of my arm, my knife to his throat, ransom for my friends' lives. He stood very still as if thinking of nothing at all. He met the cat's gaze evenly. I dared not guess what passed between them, not even when the cat glanced aside and stared resolutely past him. Anger is hardening Lodwine's features for a moment as Lord Golden is staring around this circle very haughtily. But then he mastered them, saying, of course you must report to the queen. When she has heard an accounting from her son of his experiences with us, perhaps she will be more sympathetic to our position. Because before this, Lord Golden basically threatened them.
Right.
He said, if we get back and we tell the queen, you're lucky that we're going back and going to be nice to you and we, believe you, because otherwise we'd send the soldiers to hunt you down like vermin.
Yeah.
And this is why Fitz is shut up, shut up, shut up.
Yeah, don't
make them angry.
Don't threaten them. We need them on our side for a minute just to get you out of here. Yeah. And I think this really goes to show how much trust there is between Beloved and Fitz, because even though this goes against everything Beloved wants to happen, he has to trust his catalyst.
Yeah.
He has to. That, like, the only way this works out is if he trusts the catalyst. This is not...
Let him make his decisions, even if he thinks they're wrong.
Yep, because that is the catalyst role, is to make the decisions that weren't there before. And I do wonder how much of this is something that he hasn't foreseen. That, like, this is uncharted territory. And so it sort of is like a, well, I guess I just trust that he makes the right decisions. That's his job. And I don't know. And trust that his friend is going to do what's right. This is a scary amount of trust to have in someone, though.
Nighteyes leans hard against Fitz's leg for a moment, and Fitz focuses a thought at him, saying, "Go to Earth as soon as you may, lead him off the road, and hide as best you can." I did not know how far he would get, but at least he would not die in this cave, surrounded by hounds and hunting cats that hated him. The fool would be beside him. That was as much comfort as I could find for myself. The mouth of the cave was an arch of light. In that halo, I saw Malta brought to the fool. He took her reins, but did not mount her. Instead, he led her in a slow walk, one that matched the pace Nighteyes could sustain. He stares after them there, still arm wrapped around Dutiful, knife pressed to Dutiful's throat, his breathing matching Fitz's. Life walked away from me, and I embraced death here. "I'm so sorry," I whispered by his ear. "I'll make it fast." He already knew. My son's reply was the barest stirring of air. "Not yet. A small corner still belongs to me. I can hold her off for a time, I think. We will let them get as far as they can."
And that's the end of the chapter.
That is the end of the chapter.
So yeah, it's a little heartbreaking from Dutiful as well, that he is fully aware that he's dying. That there is no...
that is the plan.
The plan is he's going to die. And he is keeping what little corner of his mind he can to keep that secret.
Next chapter is suitably called Sacrifice, because that's what Dutiful is being here, right?
Yes.
Like, he's like, okay, this is for the good of the realm.
Mm-hmm.
We can't let this group take over.
Which I think is pretty heartbreaking for a teenager to have the mentality of sometimes this is sacrifice.
That's what I was saying about, I don't like how Kettrican was raised and is raising Dutiful in that kind of mindset. I think it's not great.
No. And I mean, okay, we talk about Mountain Kingdom culture being like that, but is that not how the Farseers are as well? Is that not sort of part of nobility in this
definitely
world?
Kind of, yeah, right? Like, I'm not disillusioned to say that, like,
it's
the
just
Farseers are great, you know? But yeah, it's a little bit not great to raise somebody being like, you are a pawn. And
yes, like, you literally need to do whatever is best for the kingdom, whether that's dying or being a servant, whatever it means. You got to do it. You are sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it means to rule. And then, like, here he is faced with death, going into it like, well, it's the best option for the kingdom and it's what's needed of me. So I guess, yeah.
Works out for him, but
to be fair, a little bit this feels like him being his father's son of, like, death is the only option because it's the easiest in this moment and I've been betrayed and I hate everything.
He said not yet, you know.
Yes.
I will fight longer if I have to.
Yes. No, for sure. And I think, I was being a little facetious there, but...
Right. That's also our job on a podcast.
Yes. But I think there is... I don't know. I think there is that sort of heartbreak in knowing that, for the confirmation of a first-time reader of Dutiful's playing along.
Right.
And that Dutiful knows. And obviously he's kept it from the cat because the cat is not in on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I don't know. Lots to think of. It's kind of crazy that Dutiful knows that Fitz is going to kill him no matter what.
Yeah, right.
And that nobody else does, I get, like, especially not the cat. Because you'd think if Dutiful can figure it out, the cat would be able to suss out, like, based off this man, he's not going to just let Dutiful go. But then maybe, like you said, maybe she isn't always paying attention. Maybe she's always there, but maybe she's not necessarily always there.
Right. Yeah. Man,
10th chapter.
10th chapter. Tough couple chapters coming up.
Yep.
So
Get ready.
get ready.
Get your tissues ready.
Yep. Thank you so much for coming along this journey with us, though.
Yeah.
Is Fitz happy, you think?
I think in this moment, Fitz is happy that he is gonna potentially die before his wolf.
Yeah,
so, like, with the caveat, yes, caveat. Only because of certain circumstances he believes to be happening. Right. But it's a yes. It's a yes either way. A yes is a yes.
Well, if you guys want to contradict Emma's yes there, please let us know. It is fitzhappy@gmail.com, or you can message us directly on social medias or comment on our posts on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, all those. We're good. I think that's everything.
Threads, if you didn't.
I think I
you
said
said
Threads.
that. Yeah.
Any of them. Reach out through DirecTV and message us.
If you can figure it out, honestly, shout out.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. We'll see you next week. All right. Time for our favorite part. We're going to talk about what you brought to our attention.
But before we do, I do want to give a big shout out to everyone who supported us on Ko-fi. Thank you so much, as always, Anna and Neva, but also Niklas, Lauren, and Jess. Thank you so much as well. We really appreciate your support.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. So without further ado, we'll also get into some comments you all gave us, starting with a comment on an Instagram post, and that's for episode 274. And I asked the question, what is your explanation for the magic on the beach of Other Island? And Ash commented on our Instagram, I think it's a big junction. Probably a few skill pillars were there to use and then go on to the other places, but water/weather/others have destroyed them. That's why the dragons would lay their eggs there, as Elderlings could easily get there via the pillars to protect them.
Which also makes sense. I know we always talked about it's probably an Elderling city underneath it.
Yeah.
Which, they would probably have buildings there, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a large, like, palace structure or a massive center. It could just be, a trading juncture or someplace that kind of has reverence. And with that, so yeah, some sort of Elderling structure seems to be common though.
Yeah, but I do like the idea that it's a junction. It's like kind of a new idea I haven't seen.
Yeah, especially if there's multiple pillars. That would be cool.
Yeah, I like the idea of there being multiple, which would also help sort of explain part of the like weirdness of the water there, right?
Yeah, the multiple blocks and then the weirdness of like, around the island itself is weird.
Yeah. So thank you, Ash. We also got a DM from listener Caitlin, who is not going to hear this for a while, but wrote in about chapters. Oh, no, actually, that's this chapter. Sorry.
Yes, this book, chapters 23 and 24. Not
23 and 24, not episode 23 and 24. Sorry, I misread that at a glance. But yes, they had the thought that I don't think the being in the skill that saves Fitz and Dutiful is a dragon, because dragons don't care enough about humans generally to save them. Maybe it's a powerful white?
Just interesting because we don't really know anything about the whites.
Yeah.
Right? And there's obviously some connection with them to magic. So maybe they did have some sort of skill or something like that.
Yeah.
I agree that it's probably not a dragon, but I kind of put that theory out there that it might have started as a dragon or has like dragon consciousnesses with it and attracted other things to kind of mellow them out.
Yeah. Yeah. You never know. But I do like the idea of it also potentially being a white.
Yeah.
Or like a OG white prophet, not the diluted form that.
Right. Like an actual, like from the original race that died out.
Yes. So that's a cool theory. Also, they wanted to ask, what's the cost of using the skill pillar? I assume it's like a partial forging where you lose random memories or pieces of your consciousness, and that's why people go mad.
I think that is the cost of not protecting your mind or something similar to that, right?
Okay.
I think I don't think there is a true cost of just if you are trained going in and going out of one. Like I don't
Other than
know.
like energy.
Yeah, other than energy. But if you're repeatedly going through, your energy is going to fail. You are going to lack some protection and probably lose some of yourself. I think that's personally my headcanon.
That's fair. Then do you think it is like if you are that unprepared person going in multiple times, is that then partial forging in a way?
I don't think so. I don't think of it like forging at
Okay.
all. I think it's a different thing altogether. I don't know why,
Yeah.
because it's like also skill stone and it's also,
Yeah.
I don't
But
know. But
different use.
yeah, it's a different use. I don't think it is personally. I think it's kind of it's not just putting memories into something, it's your whole being that is kind of spooling away from you in there.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't really know what to think.
I feel like I don't believe that it forges you even if you're unskilled because it has a specific task that it's been assigned to already.
Yeah.
Whereas the forging happens to stone that has not been formed into anything yet, that is trying to be formed into something, but it already had like this, the skill pillar has been formed. It has been created.
Counterpoint.
Yeah.
The stone dragons that are carved also steal memories, even when they're alive.
But that's how they're built.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Like, I
Yeah.
guess I don't know if that's how all skill magic
But
is
like,
built.
for example,
but
the skill
stone-
road doesn't steal memories. It just
Right.
makes you lost in the memories that are
Yes.
there.
Yes, it's not taking your memories.
Yeah.
Although maybe it is. Maybe there's a version of Fitz walking on that road still.
Maybe.
I don't know. But I think you could argue, we don't know the magic system well enough, but you could argue potentially because the skill pillar has the task of taking you from one place to another, it's not taking from you by itself. Maybe it's throwing bits of your consciousness somewhere else,
Right.
but I think it's more about like the intent of how you're creating a thing and what it's meant to do. And stone dragons are built to feed on the memories of people and then continue to do that to live more.
Yeah.
So a little bit different. I don't know. Maybe it is forging you a little bit if you're untrained every time.
The last thing that Caitlin has in here is it doesn't totally fit the description, but I definitely picture the others as Jabba the Hutt.
Which is very funny.
I have to agree. I like a skinny Jabba the Hutt, you know?
You're body shaming Jabba the Hutt right now.
I am. I definitely am. Not that the others look any better than Jabba the Hutt. But
No. I don't know.
I think that's a good base to go off of, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
Something like that.
I genuinely have a very hard time picturing it.
Right.
But that's just a me problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We also got an email from Anna, and Anna wrote in to talk about how it was weird to them that Kettricken didn't tell Dutiful that Fitz is still alive.
Yeah, just kind of wondering in general what Dutiful knows about Fitz, or like the
Right.
legends of like the witted bastard farseer. Like, why? I don't know. Like,
Well,
does he
yeah.
know any of those stories? Does he know that he went to save Verity at the end? And if so, why wouldn't he know that he was alive?
Right, that's his cousin / father. Like, what is going on? And then they do say maybe Dutiful was still too young to know, and
Right.
they planned on telling him.
I can definitely see that, especially with Chade and Kettricken talking. Chade would not want to reveal the secret that Fitz is still alive because he wanted to keep that secret. But also, probably both of them would want to keep it in the hopes that Fitz would come back himself.
Yes. And yeah, I think that's more of it's partially to respect the wishes of Fitz and hope Fitz does it himself. And also a little bit that Dutiful is pretty young And
yeah.
you don't want to tell kids say everything. If you don't know that already and you do have kids, I'm sorry, but your kids are telling their teachers whatever they know about you. Like, like there are no secrets with a child. If a child knows it, there's a good chance some other adult is getting told it. And so when you are a prince and, you know, you are potentially talking to people that are enemies on a daily basis, what you can know as a child is probably pretty limited.
Right.
So that you don't accidentally, with good intention, say something like, oh, my Uncle Fitz is still alive. He helped my dad. Like, it's, I don't know. I feel like it's probably an age thing, but I do think there is a little bit of sort of courtesy to Fitz, even if that means that's part of being sacrificed for Kettricken.
We're both falling on the side of Dutiful doesn't really know anything about Fitz.
I don't think Fitz. I
think Dutiful knows that Fitz existed and that he died in Regal's dungeons.
Yes. I feel like Kettricken wouldn't have told him about the stories of what happened to Fitz in the dungeon or why Regal killed him, but I think Dutiful would have heard about the rumors of Fitz chivalry farseer. Like, because kids talk, and even though he's a prince, I feel like people
farseer, you know?
Farseer, what about your crazy uncle? Like, I feel like he probably has heard a version of the tale, but I don't think it's a good version, and I don't think it's something that he would think, oh, this guy who's
technically cousins, right? Not uncle.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They would be cousins because Verity's, Fitz's uncle. So, yeah, they're cousins. But, oof.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think that Kettricken should have told them, but also I get the, like, kids talk.
14, yeah.
Kids talk. He's 14, not old enough.
Anna also brought up the kind of similarities, or at least what they think is maybe from the same era or background of the naming of the Six Duchies people with like the power of the names and the man ceremony that we had for Fitz in the first book. And I kind of agree that they kind of share the same space, that it's from a bygone era. It's kind of like that folk tale-ish kind of thing. And whether it's widely practiced or not anymore, probably not, but at least at some point it was widely held to be a strong belief.
Right. And this is talking about the fact that names are believed to have power for people.
Yeah.
That like they name their kids with the idea of giving that virtue through the name.
Folk beliefs claim that the names were sealed to newborn babies by magic, quote, passed through fire and plunged through salt water and offered to the winds of the air, and that they were later incapable of betraying the virtues whose names they bore. It is unclear whether such a ritual once existed and if it was really binding at all. And I do agree with Anna here that it does bring to mind the man ceremony where, you know, cloaked unknown men brought this little kid out here and like you were handed wildlife and you can choose to release them or kill them, and you either have a feast or not, and it's you release them, so you choose life, you know?
Yes. And then you get a special name, and
right.
It's a whole thing. Yes. I think for sure those could be considered the
native
leftovers of like the bygone era. Yeah, the native belief for sure.
Of like the black tooth people in the forest.
That we get mentioned like one time. Oh, it will never not bother me that it's a one-off line. Okay, Robin Hobb, next book, I need B to encounter the black teeth men in the forest.
Right.
Anyway.
Just someone with bad dental hygiene. Yes. They made stories about him.
Yes. If there was at one point a ritual made, and whether or not it really did work, I think people believed it worked enough to it's still pervasive in the current culture.
Definitely.
Because culture grows obviously over time. And so like as you grow and know more things about the world around you and you evolve, like your understanding of the world evolves, so too do your traditions. And so I think it's really cool to have something that potentially was a ceremony that they believed was magic, and now
it's kind of trendy.
Yeah, it's just what the nobles do.
Yeah.
But again, this is a world with magic, so maybe there was some sort of magic, and then it was kind of bad that it kept happening. So it sort of turned into a like only certain people can do it, which turned into nobles do this because that's what their kids imbue, or they are imbuing that virtue to their child. I don't know.
Anna's last thought here is also talking about the skill pillar and the ethereal void space that Fitz rescues Dutiful from, and then is rescued by Ida or El or Sa or whomever. And Anna kind of thinks that they're the same entities and Sa just contains both, which we kind of talked about too, that like all the gods might be the same thing.
Which is, Sa may be the most realistic.
Right. Anna says they also pictured it as sort of a hive mind. I think at some point in the last trilogy, Fitz hears Chade in there, and I always thought it was like a giant stone dragon that contains all the thoughts and memories of beings who have lived. Anyways, it's been a while since I've read them, but that was just the impression I was left with, which is very similar kind of to what I was thinking and tried to convey in that last episode too. Yeah. Of just, your life force goes there, and then these large beings are kind of attracting those life forces.
Yeah. And I don't really know what I believe, so
yeah,
I won't try to puzzle it out here, but I do like all the ideas because I think it's so fun to see how we're all interpreting it differently.
Definitely.
Yeah. So thank you, Anna. And finally, we had a short little nice email from Jess just talking about how they loved all the love for Fitz last episode. And I wanted to bring it up because I just wanted to say it probably won't ever happen again. But, no, that's not true. It is very rare for me to be nice to Fitz, though. So you guys are welcome. I did it for a whole episode. I think that might be a new record.
No, I think the first book you were very nice to Fitz because he's just a little boy,
That's true. Yeah. I guess, I don't know. No, I love Fitz and I care about him and want him to make better decisions, and I'm not nice about it. So
and last chapter he did make some pretty good ones.
He made some I think there was some good in there. I think I tried really hard, and I just liked the little bits that we got to see behind the curtain of Fitz.
So thank you, Jess.
Thanks, Jess. And thank you everyone who writes in. We always love hearing from you, and we love hearing your theories and thoughts, and can't wait to see what else you have to say next week.